Hello everyone, this is Chapter 6, General Equilibrium Analysis for Intermediate Microeconomics 2 course. So with this video, I'm going to start a new series of videos where I talk about general equilibrium analysis. There are several, 12 keywords that you should understand in order to sort of say that you understand this chapter. And so in this video, I would like to go through those keywords and concepts. I'm not going to define every concept because they really require a longer videos, but I'll just sort of review them quickly. Some of them I will describe because, they're just straightforward definitions. So for pedagogical reasons, we are going to start with the easiest possible model. And then we're going to add additional layers to that model. All right. So first keyword is partial equilibrium analysis versus the second keyword, general equilibrium analysis. So what is the difference between the two? In the partial equilibrium analysis, basically there's only one good, single good, and in the general equilibrium there are multiple goods. Okay, so that's the key distinction between these two analyses. So up until this point, what we did actually is a partial equilibrium analysis. So we assumed there's only one good. So the monopoly produces one good. Remember, duopoly, both, in the Cournot, in the Steckelberg, in the Bertrand, both firms produce the same product. In a perfectly competitive market, all firms produce the same product, remember? So all of those are in fact partial equilibrium analysis. It makes sense if the good that we consider has no close substitutes, but it's far from reality. In reality, there are multiple goods in the market, and these goods are close substitutes to each other. And so the change in price of one good will influence the demand and or supply and therefore the price of another good in the market. And so basically the markets are interconnected. And so if you would like to analyze one market, isolating it away from the other goods, depending on the questions you're interested in, would make sense, but you may also want to look at the bigger picture, sort of the make a whole analysis, in which case we do the general equilibrium analysis. Also, by the way, in macroeconomic, most of the advanced macroeconomics courses, we do actually talk about partial and general equilibrium models a lot. So it's very, very important to understand what's going on with the general equilibrium analysis. So this is sort of the focus in this chapter. The pure exchange economy, I will give you the details about it, but we are going to start with pure exchange economy. It means there's going to be no price. Again, for pedagogical reasons, there's going to be no price and there's going to be no production. All right. So we're going to talk about pure exchange economy, introduce lots of stuff, and then we're going to introduce price into that. And then later in the next chapter, we're going to introduce production. All right. So what we do in this chapter is pure exchange economy. No price, no production. Mostly. All right. So let me talk about the pure exchange economy model. All right. So the model specific assumptions. Well, because we are dealing with general equilibrium analysis, there's got to be multiple goods, right? Well, for simplicity reasons, we're going to assume there are two goods, all right? And we need to name them good 1 and good 2, all right? So we usually denote 1 or 2 sometimes, all right? And then we need buyers and sellers, right? Many buyers, many sellers. But for simplicity reasons, again, we're going to have two agents. We're not going to call them buyer-seller yet because because we don't have any production, it really is unclear who the buyer is, who the seller is. All right. So in the pure exchange economy, everyone can be the buyer and everyone could be the seller. It depends on their preferences and their initial endowments. So what we assume is that there are two agents. All right. Well, there could be multiple agents. I mean, more than two, obviously. But for the simplest case, there's going to be two agents. We're going to call them agent A and B. All right. And then they come up with, well, so there's no production. All right. But they're going to consume some goods. All right. So where are those goods coming from? Are they falling from the sky? Well, what we assume is that each agent brings a basket of goods to the market, and we call them as initial endowments. So initially, agent A is going to bring some good one and some good two. This is how we, the notation is also important. So be clear about the notation. So agent A brings this many good one. So the superscript 1 denotes the number of good one agent A brings. All right. And WA2 is the number of good 2 agent A brings. And similarly, agent B is going to bring some goods. All right, so these are numbers like 3. So if good 1 is apple, good 2 is banana. So my standard example, apples and bananas. So this is how many good, apples agent A brings, how many bananas he brings, and this is how many bananas agent B brings, and how many apples, and how many bananas agent B brings. All right, so these are real numbers. So here, WA, WB, these are some vectors of reals, non-negative. They can be 0, obviously. But, you know, somebody should bring some positive amount of good 1 or good 2, right? Because if everybody brings 0 amount of good 1 and good 2, there's nothing to consume, and hence the problem is not interesting. So somebody should bring some positive amount of goods. So this is what we call initial endowment. We usually denote W as a vector of vectors, okay? So this vector has 4 coordinates. The first 2 coordinates is basically how many good 1 agent, so the first 2 coordinates is for agent A, all right? And then the second 2 coordinates is for agent B, all right? So don't forget that. So the W has 4 coordinates, and we call this the initial endowments. All right, the next is allocation. Well, think about this. So these 2 guys, A and B, bring some apples and bananas to the market. So in some way, let's say we distribute these apples and bananas that's available among these 2 agents. All right, so any possible distribution is basically called allocation. All right, so allocation is denoted usually by X, all right? And again, it's a vector of vectors. We denote it as XA and XB, all right? So the allocation can be the same as the initial endowment, W. It can be different than that, all right? So an allocation is, again, has 4 dimensions. The number of good 1 agent A will have, and number of good 2 agent will have. So the first 2 coordinates for agent A, and then the second 2 coordinates are for agent B, good 1 and good 2. Right? So you can think of this as W, the initial apples and bananas agents bring, and X is how many apples and bananas each agent consumes. All right? They may want to consume what they bring. They may want to consume something other than what they bring. All right? So they trade, they exchange the goods, and hence the exchange economy. So, I bring apples, but I have too many. But I have very few bananas. Can you give me some bananas in return for apples? So that's what we mean by exchange. And at the end, say, for example, they end up X, the consumption So you can interpret allocation as a consumption, and initial endowment is the basket they bring to the market. All right. The other important key concept is the feasible allocation. Well, the allocation must be feasible, meaning they cannot consume more than what they bring, and they shouldn't consume less than what they bring. All right, so basically what they consume must be equal to what they bring to the market. But it doesn't mean that what agent A consumes. No, the total consumption for each good must be equal to the total supply of each good. So what we write is the feasibility condition. We write it as follows: feasibility condition. All right, so it's basically the following. Agent A brings this many good one. Agent B brings that many good one. So the total good one consumption has to be equal to, I'm sorry, this is not what they bring, this is how much they consume. This is how much they bring. All right. So the total number of good one consumed must be exactly equal to the total number of good one brought to the market. By the way, this is nothing but demand equals supply condition. All right. Sometimes we call this market clearance condition. But again, it's demand, right? I mean, we would like to consume, and so this is the total demand, and because there are two agents, and this is the total supply. Well, here the supply is exactly how many apples and bananas we bring to the market. There is no production, remember? So no apples and bananas will be added to this market. So whatever we bring with ourselves is what's available. There is no further apples and bananas pumped into the market. And so because also there's no production, we can't make apples and bananas. So the supply is this, and this is the demand for good one. And the same thing must hold for good two, meaning I basically keep the A's and B's the same, all right? And the only thing is the superscript 1 is replaced with superscript 2. So the total number of good 2 consumption has to be equal to total number of good 2 endowment, all right? So this is what we call feasibility condition or market clearance condition, all right? Once again, they cannot consume more than what's available in the market, and they shouldn't consume. I mean, this shouldn't hold, all right? So what does that mean? That means they consume less than what they bring. So it shouldn't hold. Well, it should be this. It should be equal to, because the utility functions we're going to assume is increasing, and so that means both agents actually enjoy consuming these two goods, apples and bananas. And so why waste? There's no point of wasting, or there's no point of saving. All right. So if you don't consume, what are you doing with this extra apples and bananas? You can't save in this market, in this economy. It's very simple. Saving is not part of it. And so if you don't consume, it means you're wasting. And so you shouldn't waste. All right. So that's what feasible allocation means. I'll talk about Edgeworth-Bucks, Pareto efficient allocation, mutual gain from trade, and then Pareto set contract curve in separate videos. I'll then introduce the prices and then talk about how we find the equilibrium prices. We call it Walrasian equilibrium. And then I'll have another video where I talk about first and second theorem of welfare economics. So once again, so these are concepts. So up to this point, Edgeworth-Bucks, all these concepts are sort of very straightforward, and hence this relatively short video. And then the rest of the stuff, we have to make a more detailed discussion, because they deserve a more detailed discussion. All right, so it's coming up.